The
Fuck, I'm out of
Cine
here.
men.
No, no, we're recording them out.
We're
No one told
recording.
me
All
we'd
right.
be recording this.
We've only done this 53 other times. You should know by now
Wait,
that we
what?
are recording. Yes, yes.
Who are
You
you?
were present for most of them, except for the Secret Thomas episodes.
Oh, y'all keep bringing that up. One of these days, I'm gonna believe you.
Well, one of these days you might be smart too. This is episode 54 of the Cinnamon. I am one of your hosts, Seed, and joined as always is the lovely Douglas Davidson. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing all right. It is always a good time to do this with you. So I'm excited to be here.
Likewise, I am also excited to be here. It's been a little bit since we did a show proper. It's been a little bit since we've done a show, period.
Yeah.
So, I'm pretty sure there is much and more to discuss on today's episode. So let's get to it, man. What movies have you seen that you would like to highlight recently?
Well, for those of you that are in Paprika and perhaps haven't noticed, totally fine if you haven't. But during the month of August this year, the Fantasia International Film Festival was going on. This is based in Canada. I forget specifically where, I think Toronto, but they host films of all stripes, short, long, documentary, fiction, horror, suspense. They've got, I think, adult animation and maybe even kid animation. I don't know. Most of the stuff that hit my desk was more the adult variety. Like, is it Phil Tappett's Mad God, which I tried watching. I wanted to see so badly. I got 15 minutes in and then had to turn it off due to inducing a migraine. I was so pissed because it was gorgeous. And those first 15 minutes, not an ounce of dialogue.
I like it.
Nothing. It's just atmosphere. The score was amazing. And everything I've heard from folks, for the most part, has been exceptionally positive. So if you're remotely curious about that stop motion animation project, definitely check that out. But I watched, I want to say, about 9 films throughout the festival. I was hoping to do more, but something popped up on a work day that sent me spiraling, so there was no coming back from that. But a few films that I do want to recommend. I've got full spoiler-free reviews on the website. There's, of course, plenty of other reviews from 2 of my contributors that covered that, Mallory Moore and Hunter Heilman. But I want to recommend a film. I think it's from Kazakhstan. Sweetie, You Won't Believe It. It's a road comedy slash road comedy slash horror film in which 3 friends decide to go on a fishing trip, except none of them know how to fish. They're only doing it because one of them is trying to get away from his wife who's about to give birth because she's constantly nagging him. While they're on the water, they accidentally come across a couple of gang members killing someone. Meanwhile, a maniac is on the loose who starts hunting down the gang members while a woman kidnaps one of the 3 men to marry him.
Okay, so they just toss darts at plot points. And they were like, here we go.
So well. It is the kind of like the way that they connect everything together to just sort of introduce little things as you go along and then get them to intersect. It works perfectly. It really, really does. It was a lot of fun. One ridiculous thing after another. Speaking of ridiculous things after another, Daryl, would it be safe to say that you like the movie Tenet?
It would always be safe to say. I was talking about it as we record this on the day we recorded. I was talking about it yesterday on Twitter because it's a wonderful film.
Would you like to see something better than Tenet?
I would love to see God, yes.
Then you, sir, should track down when it comes available, whether it gets picked up and distributed somewhere in the US, Beyond the Infinite 2 Minutes.
Okay.
This is, a lot of people described it as One Cut of the Dead meets Tenet. The premise of it is
action.
It's so good. The premise of it is that this cafe owner, he leaves work, goes upstairs where he's got a monitor hooked up so he can keep an eye on his business from his apartment. Well, he contacts himself through the monitor. Hey, I'm you from 2 minutes in the future. This is what's going on. This is what's happening. The pick you were looking for your guitar is on the floor. Get it. Get your ass down here. At which point he's super confused. He goes downstairs and he sees himself in his apartment on the monitor that sees up there him getting ready to play the guitar and looking for the pick. So it begins. And his buddies come over and they're like, wait, what the F is going on? So they're going upstairs to look at the monitor into the future and communicating with themselves until insanity happens. Now, everything that occurs, we follow in what I will refer to as the present timeline. But we can see forward and we can see backward. And at one point, someone, I think it's called the Dante effect, takes a monitor and puts it in front of the other monitor so that it's just rippling.
Yep.
At which point you've got 2 minutes, 4 minutes, 8 minutes, 16 minutes, like however long into the future, and they occasionally pop into the screen. It is so fucking clever and so good. Cannot recommend it enough. Beyond the Infinite 2 minutes.
Oh, there you go.
Let's see. Did you by any chance see The Beguiled? There was a remake of it that Sofia Coppola did a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Want to be clear, hers is a remake. I forget who directed the other one, but that one had Clint Eastwood, if I remember correctly. This newer version is set in, I want to say, the Civil War. I don't think it was antebellum, but it was certainly Civil War South. A bunch of women of the same family living in a house. There's no men. Colin Farrell shows up as an injured soldier. They offer to take care of him, and we'll say, quote unquote, hilarity ensues. Okay? Because it's a bit of a power struggle. Coming from South Africa is a film directed by Kelsey Egan. And it was co-written by Egan and a woman by the name of DeWitt. I can't remember her first name. This film called Glass House. It is like The Beguiled, those of you that are familiar, except it takes place in a dystopian future where some sort of virus wipes everybody's memory. The longer you spend time outside, the more it disrupts your memory, at which point you become what they refer to as the forgotten. And this family who lives inside, they go out wearing different type of almost steampunky like gear. So you don't know what time period it is because it's a mixture of Victorian age stuff and the future age stuff. But they stay inside and they tell the story of the family. And by having someone who remembers and going through these, we'll call them traditions, they're able to keep their memories alive. It was pretty fascinating to watch. Not all of it's going to work for everybody, but it's incredibly atmospheric and I highly recommend it. If you are in the mood for something that's a little bit more dramatic with some interesting sci-fi action, as well as some interesting philosophy involved about what makes a person, Siobak. This was directed by Lee Young-yu. It's about a former assassin, basically, who is tasked with taking the first living human clone from one place to another. The clone, Siobak, has abilities beyond that of natural people. And so there is a clash over who Siobak belongs to and whether he as an individual has any autonomy. And by the way, with all of the current ruckus that is going on about Train to Busan, the lead actor is the father from Train to Busan. And he can get down. Like, he looked pretty weak, if you will, in Train to Busan. You buy him as a former assassin here.
All right, right on.
Speaking of, and this will wrap up my Fantasia coverage just as stuff to recommend to people. It's in select theaters now. It's going to streaming service Haya in September. Raging Fire. It's the last film from Hong Kong director Benny Chan. It stars Donnie Yen and Nicholas Tsay. It is about a Hong Kong police officer who is sort of playing a cat and mouse game with his protege, who is recently out of prison and on the hunt for revenge. It has got some of the most impressive stunt work I have seen lately. The story, you can figure out where it's going, and the editing plays with time in such a way that the narrative would have been more powerful in a straight format rather than getting your attention and then being like, let's get confusing as shit. You think the third act of Shang-Chi was the beginning of this whole movie is. In fact, what I just told you was more or less the official description. You wouldn't know that from the movie. You literally wouldn't know that from the movie, which is frustrating. It takes a while for it to lay that out. But it's Donnie Yen being a badass. It has such a cool final action sequence, which right before it is basically an homage to Heat. So if you liked Heat, check out Raging Fire.
There you go.
So that is my Fantasia rundown. And there's full reviews for all of these, all spoiler free, on Elements of Madness if any of them pique your interest. What about you? What have you seen?
A couple things here and there. Saw Reminiscence on HBO Max. Whack. Let's move on.
It's here. Whack. It's close. Whack.
Man, talk about it tried. I'll give it an A for effort. What else? 9 days. I checked out 9 days a little while ago. If you were unfamiliar with what that's all about, it's a supernatural, philosophical, pseudo something kind of deal. Directed by Edson Oda with Winston Duke, Zazie Beetz, Benedict Wong, Tony Hale in there for a little bit. Bill Skarsgård. It is in essence, it is a number of souls who are being interviewed by Winston Duke, who is this arbiter of souls, I guess you could put it at, and he selects who will be the right soul to inhabit a newborn body. You kind of watch him as he has many TVs set up in this metaphysical place that he's in, of kind of keeping an eye on his former pupils, as it were, the ones he selected to send out into the world. And this movie starts with his most prized one dying, and on her way to a concert that he was very excited to watch for her. And it's not. It affects him. It really affects him. It kind of affects his work process as he's interviewing these new souls. And it's all these different souls are kind of a different eye on humanity. Or you have a character who's a little bit more lax and laid back, a guy who's a little bit more intense, someone who's just all about the feel and the essence of things. So you kind of get different archetypes of humans as they are now in these different characters, and kind of how they each affect Winston Duke, because they don't affect each other, because it's all very just one-on-one. So it's not like a clash or a competition of any kind, and that kind of nature. So very good movie. An hour and some change, I think. No, 2 hours. 2 hours.
I wanted to see that, and I just never made time.
Very good movie. Very good movie. I highly enjoyed it. Great acting for such a simple, fairly simple concept, simple plot. They get some miles out of it, man. And it might be my second favorite Winston Duke so far, after being the dad in Us. And Benedict Wong doesn't have a whole lot to do, but he's great.
Wait, the dad in what?
Us. Jordan Peele's joint.
Oh, okay. Yes, he was the dad in Us.
Yes.
I was just like, that's not how you say M'Baku.
No. Also, saw Shang-Chi. We were together. We were in the same theater at the same time. Watching Shang-Chi with a couple of our compatriots there. Man, the latest of the MCU joints. I enjoyed it for the most part. And the Feige said years ago that they're done during origin stories. Bullshit! But it's still a good, fun watch. It's good to get a whole new corner of the MCU, a whole new culture represented on the big screen. The action scenes, for the most part, I thought were there for me. There's a couple of things I weren't a huge fan of. Two in particular things: the how the third act is laid out, not the subversion of what the third act is.
That was one of my favorite parts. If we're talking about the same thing.
Yeah, I think like you go into this thinking, what the third act's going to be, and then you get a smidge of that, and then you get the third act. I'm not disappointed in the subversion at all. I'm just not a fan of the editing, like we were talking about beforehand, and and how it was presented to us on the screen at the theater we watched it at. Let's say that theater is not as up to snuff as it could be, or as other theaters are.
That's one thing. There's been some talk recently, because of course with films like Shang-Chi, the whole idea of it's only going to be in theaters, which means people can only see it in theaters, that critics like ourselves won't be offered screening links to watch stuff at home. And from one perspective, I totally get that, because let's see it in the theater where it's meant to be seen, right? And that's what Kevin Feige wants, and send them to the theaters. Except then, unfortunately, our local theater that our screening was set up at was too dark.
Yeah.
So the nighttime sequences were a little harder to follow, or anything that was darkly lit. And then, of course, we've got the sound coming in from the theater next to us.
What was that?
I think Adam Frazier said it was Free Guy, but I'm not sure.
And I got so distracted because I was like, man, what are they watching over there? I was trying to
I
figure it
was
out.
doing the same thing.
But yeah, and that and the very opening of the movie, I felt a little bit, there's something I felt a little bit cheated about there. That
What are you, Cinema Sins? Narration.
well, it's what takes place in that narration that I had a little bit of an issue with. And I talked to a couple other people who saw Shang-Chi and know a little bit about comics, and a couple of people felt the same way. But yeah, overall, man.
Not knowing about the comic, I had no problem with it.
And I feel like that's going to be the majority of people, anyways. There, a whole lot of people aren't going to put those two and two together, but they're still going to be able to enjoy a good movie. And I don't think it's much of a spoiler to say that the rings weren't explained all that much, and I think that was very purposeful. And I kind of like that they withheld some of that information, giving us something to look forward to for Shang-Chi and the Legend of the 11 Rings, which I assume was the sequel, has to be now. And then hopefully we can get the 12 Rings as the trilogy.
Was this? They're going to be the Oceans movies of the MCU.
They
just
gonna.
Do you think we need one more? Okay,
we'll get one more.
We'll get one more.
Actually, you know what? If anything, it would be the Ant-Man, I guess. You got Ant-Man and the Wasp. Now maybe we'll get Ant-Man and the Wasp and Cassie in the third one.
Quantumania. Sorry, they already called that one. That's where Kang shows up.
Yeah, man. My man, the Conqueror.
The Conqueror. The official. Man, Jonathan Majors. I love that dude. I haven't seen him in much, but man,
he nailed that joint in Loki. I can't wait. Can't wait. But anyways, yeah, I think people have a fun time with Shang-Chi. I had a fun time. It's a fun time. Awkwafina, I think, is, to me, just kind of is Awkwafina in every movie that she's in. She's kind of like The Rock, just kind of shows up and he is The Rock. Awkwafina, you cast for a specific thing, and it's the Awkwafina shtick. Not saying there's anything wrong with that. You just know what you're getting with her. But I did like Samu Liu. I see there's a couple people who weren't huge fans of his acting, but I found it just fine. And you give me Tony Leung, and I'm always there for it. The man is finally starting to age. 132 years old, and he's finally starting to age.
Because he's had those power rings.
He had the rings, man.
Because he's had the power rings.
Had him in the mood for love. So yeah, good shit, Shang-Chi.
I enjoyed it more than you did, and there's not much I would add on to what you said, other than I can't wait to watch it again at all. Tangential to that, The Rock has range. He did his earlier stuff. Faster is one of my favorite flicks of his. He did Walking Tall. He got his ass beat. He doesn't do that anymore, which is a bit of a shame. And amusingly, Awkwafina was in the second of the new Jumanji movies, technically the fourth film in the Jumanji series. And she did a really good job sounding like Danny DeVito.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
So she's got some range. But certainly coming off of Raya and the Last Dragon, I couldn't help but be like, is she a water dragon?
Yeah, the Awkwafina that you hear in Raya, for me, is the same Awkwafina from Crazy Rich Asians, is the same Awkwafina from Ocean's 8, is the same Awkwafina from Nora from Queens. So it's just, maybe because she's always high energy, very ebullient are the characters that she plays, I guess is the best way of putting it.
It worked in Ocean's 8, though.
It worked very much. She's a great street hustler in Ocean's 8. But yeah, fun times. I already have tickets for the evening premiere, so looking forward to it, man.
Where are you seeing it?
Not at the theater we saw it.
Oh,
Checking out North Lake, which is the closest one to
okay.
me. So myself, Leslie, and a couple others will be out there getting our Shang-Chi on.
The wifey.
Yeah,
Going with the wifey.
yeah, the soon to be wifey will be.
Yeah. Everybody in the Davidson household very excited for you too.
I'm glad. Thank you. Let son know I'm glad he's excited for me. I'm sure he has no idea.
Preston had no idea what was going on, but he was very happy.
Oh, you know what? I'm cool with it. Thank you very much for the all Davidson household there. You ready to get into our topic, man?
Before we do, one thing, because one more thing, and then I promise we'll get into our topic. What do you think of Suicide Squad?
I thought it was all right. You know, I thought it was. I don't remember. Jesus, it seems like a million years ago already.
It does.
It does. A lot of stuff has happened since the Suicide Squad for both of us. I remember thinking, okay, it draws the inevitable comparisons to Guardians. Obviously, I enjoyed Guardians more than I enjoyed Suicide Squad. It's more meaner, and more of a mean spirit, which I kind of enjoyed because I feel like Guardians is Disney, so Gunn kind of had to hold back. I think Suicide Squad is more of who James Gunn is. When you allow him to be unstrapped, this is what James Gunn does. And yeah, it's good. The performances were great, man. I thought Cena really impressed me, although he's continually impressing me. So I should just have an elevated idea of what this guy's working with.
If you're looking for a silly movie, check out Vacation Friends. I was watching that shit and Cena was fucking selling it.
Okay, right on. And he sells this role too as well.
Yes,
Idris Elba does great. I think the casting is wonderful. The group dynamics are good. The action was okay. Some switcheroos you don't see happening. What they do with Harley continues to change and evolve that character. And she is, for better or worse, the face of the DCEU or whatever you want to call it now. I enjoyed it. It's not something that I'm actively running back to rewatch, but I'm not even sure if it's still on Max because I think they're on Max for like 30, 45 days before they disappear.
It's 31 days from release.
So yeah,
it's released on the 5th of August. So a few more days. Ooh. In fact, at the time of this recording, there's a Twitter watch party going on right now before it leaves Twitter.
Yeah.
Before it leaves HBO Max.
Before
the movie leaves Twitter. Good God.
So there you go. Boom. And also, aren't the Real Blend Boys they're doing something right now as we speak.
Yeah, they're doing Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Which is why I'm surprised you're here right now.
Believe me, I got excited and I was like, oh, but I got a show to do.
Oh, damn. No, we need to record a show. I gotta do a show.
I'm gonna do a show. Oh, just the number one movie of 100 for 100. But oh yeah, I'll do the show. Yes, and I've seen all sorts of other movies that I will not speak of because I'm working on yet another 100 list. So that's happening. Although if you follow me on social medias, it's not that hard to suss out when I keep saying research and then a movie of a certain kind.
Sheer curiosity. How many slots will the Green Knight have on this 100 for 100 list?
This particular one, it will
it be the first 50 or the second 50?
It will not have any spots. It does not fit thematically, unfortunately, with this particular 100 list. But because the Green Knight exists,
not finding a way.
Because it exists, I will now have to create a third 100 list just to put Green Knight on there in some kind of way.
100 for 100 movies with colors in the title.
You know what? Boom, done.
Red, blue, white, green. There's 4 right there.
There's 4. And I'm just going to review them 25 different ways. Done and done. So yeah, let's get into this main bit of business here, sir.
Before we do, I would at least like to say with Suicide Squad, I've seen it twice now. Yeah. It played much better the second time than it did the first. I think for me anyway, I was like, wait, they've murdered everybody. And now we're getting a second introduction, but we're getting a time loop thing and da-da-da-da-da. So there was stuff that I liked, but I wasn't quite sure if if I was vibing with it, the second time around, knowing where it was going, it was much easier to vibe with it and to see what was happening, and also pick up on the fact that Waller was murdering everyone she didn't like. Like
Yes.
literally, the whole thing is Waller just. How else would you get the beach cleared and get the team she wants in? This is the team she wants to be going to do stuff. Da 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 da. And it hangs a wonderful shroud over the rest of the movie when Rick Flag and Harley get involved.
Yeah, shout out to like Jai Courtney for being a good enough sport to come back for his 2 scenes. I think he might have, and all those people who were in there for a handful of minutes.
Yeah. And I've never rooted so hard for Polka Dot Man ever. And I may not have known about him until the Lego Batman movie, but I looked at Crystal after watching it the second time and I went, if Condiment King doesn't show up in the next Suicide Squad movie, I'm going to be pissed.
If it's Gunn, I would not be surprised if Condiment King show. David Dastmalchian, man, I've been telling people that's the guy to keep an eye on, and I'm glad he's finally getting. We'll see him again later on, and what's either going to be the first or second best movie of the year, Dune. Yeah, looking forward to seeing that guy's body of work. He reminds me of like an older Paul Dano. It's kind of the vibe I get from it. It might just be because they kind of look similar to me, but I much prefer my man Dave coming from sleeping in cars to now headlining in major blockbusters.
One job working with Christopher Nolan changed his entire life.
Everything. Yeah. It's always love to see or hear stories like that. And then
absolutely
couldn't have any adopted a cat, man, named him Bubblegum. It's it's all sorts of kind-heartedness for David Dastmalchian.
Which if you didn't know, Dune is going to be screening at, I think, Venice.
Yes,
and
I do know.
New York film festivals.
Mm-hmm.
So those embargoes are going to be releasing way before it hits theaters.
Way before it hits theaters. Yes, I already have my tweets scheduled for the Venice.
This is the greatest movie of all time. The thing that's going to suck is when, and I'm going to knock here to be very clear that I'm joking, knock on wood, the movie doesn't
no
move.
Pushing back. There's no
but
pushing
you're going to
back.
forget if it does. And you're going to be like, I can't believe Dune is the greatest movie ever. Sir, it hasn't come out yet.
Dune pushing
it's
back.
2025. Dune hasn't hit theaters.
I've had to reschedule so many tweets with Dune being pushed back. I'm ready for it. Ready for it.
All right. We could joke about all this all night, but you've been trying to get us onto our topic.
Yeah.
Our topic that we tried to discuss with our guest Michael Reyes, but we were having too much fun. It made absolutely no sense to stop what we were doing to discuss this, which is kind of a shame because I wanted to know what he was going to bring up for this. But today we're talking about melees. Melees in cinema specifically are favorites. Now, there was an issue amongst Daryl and myself over the definition.
Mm-hmm.
So we were talking about this at one point, and he was like, mother frick, and had to come up with his own list.
I said that exactly.
There you go.
I misinterpreted as melee weapons.
Yeah, which is fair.
It was melee fights, which honestly I think is actually a better topic. So I'm glad this is a Davidson idea that I got down with.
Sure. So for those of you wondering, the Oxford language definition is a confused fight, a skirmish, or a scuffle. So just to give you a couple of examples, think the Prison Break and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1, the Crazy 88 sequence with Kill Bill, the Microbot sequence towards the end with Big Hero 6, the entire end of Blazing Saddles.
That's a good one.
Let's see. The Zion fight in Matrix Revolutions, and of course the Burly Brawl and the Matrix Reloaded. I have a ton more on here, but I hesitate to provide examples just to have Daryl go, what the hell you have to tell him mine and spoil it? Well, no one knew it was yours until you said something. But, you know, there are tons of these. And let me tell you, trying to pick even one as a favorite was difficult. The one jumped out and unfortunately will likely always fall under this category. when something like this comes up. But what is your first one, sir?
My first one, Free Fire.
God
Listen.
damn it, you genius.
I think Free Fire is underrated. To be
Yes.
completely honest with you, it's underrated just as a movie, and it is underrated as all of you cinephiles, quote unquote, love your A24.
Oh,
And
God
I
damn.
think as an
Shots
A20
fired.
as an A24 movie, I think is also underrated. Like they have
Hey, Daryl,
become.
could you take off your Green Knight hat and remove the poncho? I think I see some soap over there. You're talking about A24. You might want to not chill for them quite so hard.
I chill hard, man. I chill hard for A24. I think that they have a certain I can't think of the word. Like when you think A24, some people tend to think prestige. You're getting something that's going to be a great story, or something a little bit artsy, or something that's at least going to be visually appealing, something of that, or just a combination of all those, like Green Knight or Moonlight or something like that. Free Fire just doesn't quite fit with you when you think of like A24 movies. It's a little outlier over there, but it's so much fun.
It's so good,
hilarious, and it's absolutely ridiculous. A gun deal between an IRA and a weapons dealer goes wrong, and it's just everyone in like a dingy, dirty warehouse. Directed by Ben Wheatley. You got Brie Larson in there. You got
Charlton Copley.
What's the guy again? Cheekbones McGee. The Scarecrow is in there. Army Hammer is in there as well. I keep want to go Kieran Hines, but that's a different actor.
Hold on, I'm gonna look it up real quick.
That's gonna bug me.
Yeah, this movie has, for those of you that aren't familiar with it, this movie has an incredible cast: Charlton Copley, Brie Larson, Army Hammer, Cillian Murphy.
There we go.
Let's see, Sam Riley, who you'd recognize,
Jack
Michael
Rayner.
Smiley, you would recognize, Jack Rayner, Noah Taylor. Like it is person on top of person, where even if you don't know them by name, you'll go, "Holy fuck, it's that guy!"
It really is an ensemble cast of like Brie Larson, Scarecrow dude, and then a bunch of that guys. And Army Hammer in there as well. And it's just a shootout gone wrong or gone right for us, because it's so funny. It's so confusing.
It's so constant.
It's just ridiculousness ratcheted up more and more and more. And there's nothing. It's one of the most fun movies, I think, that people slept on heavy. It didn't make a whole lot of money, but I love it. Number one, Free Fire for me.
Wow. That was a good one. I wish I thought of that one. Did I even write that down? I don't think I wrote that down.
As soon as I understood the assignment, I was like, oh, well, Free Fire's number one.
Ooh, I quit. I'm done. I am disappointed in myself. I went with, for my first one, a Robert Rodriguez joint. Excuse me. Story, Robert Kurtzman. Screenplay by Quentin Tarantino. A tiny little movie nobody saw. From Dusk Till Dawn.
Dusk Till Dawn.
I have so much affection for this movie. The soundtrack is amazing. The movie is so much fun. It's got a great cast of actors who I think, even now, I think George Clooney would make a From Dusk Till Dawn with the right group of people. We know Harvey Keitel still would. Yes. We know that. Yeah. But Tom Savini, of course he'd fucking show up for this.
Of course he'd show
up. Hayek, she would totally be game for this. But all of these people together, it's just in terms of a horror movie that I would show up for. For those of you that are unfamiliar with it, it's basically two brothers. They're robbers, criminals, murderers, despicable fucking people, the geckos. They are trying to make a run for the Mexican border, and they end up more or less kidnapping a family so that they can use that family's RV to cross the border. At which point they go to a bar called the Titty Twister to hang out. It's a trucker bar, and right around midnight, all the dancers turn into vampires.
Yeah,
like they do.
I've seen it.
It is amazing. And in this sequence, when people are dying left and right, everything is going nuts. You have no idea who's going to make it, who's not going to make it. And then, of course, you've got Tom Savini with his penis gun taking out people. You know, I mean, it is chaos of the highest order. And it is so good. It is so well shot and just so hilarious to watch, quite frankly.
Right on.
So that's my first one.
All right, very nice, very nice. Good call, sir. Good call. My second one is we had to take a trip across the pond. Actually, no, we're not taking a trip across the pond. Free Fire is made by a British dude, so we're staying over in England. In a melee that you don't see on screen. It's all implied and intimated. Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels.
Interesting.
Everything in that movie leads up to the climactic shootout where you got these criminals, Rory Breaker's drug guys, the weed guys, the neighbors are all converging on these poor hapless fools who got in way over their heads to kill them, and they all get there at the same time, and they all kill each other. And it is, I'm pretty sure, yeah, most of it is seen off screen. I think you see at the very beginning, and then they show up, and then I think the last person left alive is Rory Breaker. And yeah, it's just all paths lead to this one moment in the film, and it's just so many wildly disparate elements that it and if you haven't seen it before, you think, I have no idea how all this is going to come together. But somehow Guy Ritchie makes it all come together in that one scene. And of course, those four hapless idiots still managed to make it. If you've never seen Lock, Stock, Two Smoking Barrels, it's basically a group of four guys all pool their money to get to their poker playing friend. He sits down with the seedy underbelly of poker players, gets cheated out of his money. And they have to come up with a substantial amount to buy their way out, or the dude's dad's bar is going to be up for the taking from the main poker guy, Hatchet Harry. Hack him up with a hatchet.
Does Sting play the father, or
Sting
is he
the father?
Harry?
Sting is the father. Yeah.
It has literally been decades since I've seen Lock, Stock.
It has literally been months since I've seen Lock, Stock. I love that movie. Yeah, and it's just all about how can these people who didn't have a whole lot of money in the first place come up with this vast sum in 1 week to pay back this crime lord, basically, and the shenanigans that ensue because of it.
Always shenanigans. It's always shenanigans with these guys.
Yeah, it is, and it's a good look at just a tight knit group of friends. The writing, I think, is still my favorite Guy Ritchie writing, because the jokes play well. Even if you don't understand it, this is very British humor in there. It's still funny. I very much enjoy it. It's still my favorite Guy Ritchie. Second favorite Guy Ritchie film to date, after Man from U.N.C.L.E.
I laugh only because my favorite Guy Ritchie movie is Snatch. And literally yesterday, Crystal went to say something, and it was so nonsensical that I just looked at her and went, "Do you like dogs?
Do you like dogs?" Yeah. I love me some Lock, Stock, sir. Good stuff.
Right on.
Wrath of Man, not so much.
I like Wrath of Man. I liked Wrath of Man because it was not because it was the opposite of The Gentleman, for example, but it is a heavy film.
Yeah, it's he stepped outside of his lane, which I'm not going to knock that, because you don't really get that kind of, like, when you think Guy Ritchie, you think of things like Snatch, Lock, Stock, and the Gentleman, and Man from U.N.C.L.E. Those all the tongue-in-cheek wordplay and the crazy editing and all that. You don't get almost any of that. He plays it fairly straightforward. That I'm okay with. I just didn't like it as much as his other work. I prefer for Guy Ritchie, not latter Guy Ritchie. But what is your second?
The second one, this one was hard for me because it's a film that I immediately thought of with this category. In fact, in Paprika, it is a sequel to one of the two films going head to head right now. That's right, Amelie 2. No,
the French Boogaloo.
I watch these hands. No, but The Raid 2 I saw The Raid at home. So sorry I saw it at home. The Raid 2 I saw in the theater. What a meal of a movie.
I can't remember anything about 2 because I just watched 1 over and over and over and over. I just remember there's a fight in the kitchen.
There is. That's for the end.
That's all I remember.
This okay, for those of you that are not familiar, The Raid 2, Barundle, literally picks up where the first raid leaves off. If you're not familiar with The Raid, a group of special forces officers go to arrest a drug dealer who is in the top level of a building, which is occupied not only by him and his men, but by regular citizens who rent their homes and sometimes do things for him. So the police come in, and then all of their outside support gets either destroyed or blocked off, and they find themselves stuck in that building. And as you go through the raid, it's Eco Oasis, and of course everybody's favorite, and of course I've forgotten his name. He's Sub-Zero.
Joe Taslim.
Taslim. Yeah, Joe Taslim. He's also in this. And the two of them are fucking phenomenal in this film. It's got some amazing action sequences, and it builds up to one of the best 2-on-1 scenes in recent memory. But with 2, things turn into more of a, we'll call it The Departed type of storyline, where in order for Eco's family to be safe, to truly be safe, they need him to go after the people that were running the kingpin they were going to arrest. And so he goes undercover into prison and gets himself ingratiated into this crime family that is doing business with this other dude that's coming into Jakarta and trying to take over everything. So you're seeing things from a couple of different places.
Mm-hmm.
This movie, at the start of it, and it's why I love Gareth Evans' films, is so beautifully done in that you're watching this character, Rama, having a conversation with his police contact, and it's raining out, right? So you can hear the rain and the storm. No, there's a reason. You hear the rain and the storm outside while they're talking. It then cuts over to Rama sitting in a toilet. And it's jumping back and forth between him in this situation and him getting the information. And there's a storm everywhere around him because in prison, yeah, that's prisoners trying to bang the door down, and things just go nuts from there. Then, of course, there's a melee in the prison yard, covered in mud. Everybody's slipping and sliding and barely can get a grip. There's the melee in the car that's driving, where they actually had a cameraman disguised as a seat. These great long takes.
Love filmmaking.
The stunt work in this movie should help set the stage for what stunts should be in Hollywood. It is that ingenious. It is that well executed. And honestly, any fight sequence in this movie deserves mention on this list.
Right on.
So I couldn't come up with one. Pick a fucking fight sequence. They're almost all melees. Almost all of them are melees, with the exception of a few towards the end where it's a little bit more one-on-one. And as you mentioned, there's the fight in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And it's him up against I forget which character, but they both have a similar fighting style. I think they both use the same Salat fighting style, and it's very honorable. Like, they're trying to take each other down, but if they need to reset or they need to do something else, it's to the death, but in the best possible way.
Right on.
So, The Raid 2.
What
is your last?
You talked about the definition of melee is confusing.
Mm-hmm.
There's no better confusion than when it's about to get wild and the police just come and break it all up at the very end. and the camera crews and the historian who's chasing you all throughout the movie. I'm talking about Monty Python and the Holy Grail. It's the ending for my melee. Finally, they reach their destination. Those French fucks are back again to insult and terrorize, and Arthur's had it with their shit.
Smell like elderberries.
You
That's what
smell
you get.
like elderberry. You know what? Yeah, and the charge comes and it all just gets broken up by the causers right there at the very end. Confusion and nonsense and mayhem and people in Arthurian costumes getting put in the back of paddy wagons, and it makes absolutely no sense. And I think this tribute has to be. It comes down to that and Blazing Saddles for the best nonsensical ending, and I'm not sure which one I would go with because they are both just fourth wall breaking, fourth wall ish. I think Blazing Saddles is a little bit more fourth wall breaking, considering they say we work for Mel Brooks, but it's still a good tribute to the fourth wall break there at the end of Monty Python's Holy Grail.
You know, you say that now I want to change my last one. I do, because my last one is obvious in terms of recent and particularly recent films. When you think of a melee sequence where it's just everything is crazy, everybody's going for broke. But if you want to go with something ridiculous and just be silly about it, I mean, this wouldn't beat Monty Python, but Teen Titans versus Teen Titans.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have you seen Teen Titans versus Teen Titans Go?
I've never been a Teen Titans fan. Ever have I been a Teen Titans fan.
I have not ever either. But Connor would find episodes of Teen Titans Go on YouTube.
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh, comic books. My son finds a thing. Let me support that thing. And so I tracked down season 1 so we could watch it together. And he's more or less moved on from that now and only really watches video game. It's not even Twitch streams. I guess it's just people playing on YouTube.
All right, then.
But because of that, though, we went and tracked down Teen Titans Go to the Movies, which deservedly so should have been nominated for more awards. That movie was fucking brilliant. But Teen Titans versus Teen Titans Go is so fucking good.
Yeah.
It really is. The premise of the movie, for those of you that are unfamiliar, is that the Teen Titans from Teen Titans Go get sent to battle the Teen Titans from the previous Teen Titans, more serious animated series, which after this release, I think came back for at least a little while. Well, it turns out that the person running the game, things like the game master or something, it's actually what's her face's father, Raven's father, Trigon.
Okay.
And he's working with Trigon from another universe to free himself. And so in order to beat two versions of Trigon, Teen Titans use the same thingamabib, they call it the Whirligog, to go get all the other Teen Titans from everywhere. Basically, it's a sillier version of Into the Spider-Verse and more of them. There's steampunk Teen Titans. There are seafaring Teen Titans who don't do so well when they get out of the water. You've got Teen Titans from literally, they have the Dende Dot comics dots all over. Yeah. A whole bunch of them. And it is just army after fucking army after army going after Trigon, who at this point has become, was it by the end of the film, he's got 4 legs and a double butt. Okay, then. Because like you do in Teen Titans. It is super silly, and it is totally safe for families, for anybody that's got kids and wants to watch something silly with them. It is ridiculous. Weird Al does voices. Weird Al Yankovic. You can't go wrong there. My original choice would have been way too obvious, but still exciting. This one is definitely landing on a note compared to yours. But you went silly. I felt compelled to try and match it.
There you go.
Nothing, nothing gets close to Monty Python, but a double butt.
but a double buck gets you close.
Get you kind of close.
It's kind of close. All right, good choices. Good choices all. All right then, man. We got some challenges.
We do.
We do.
And I'm afraid I'm going to disappoint you.
Oh no! Don't tell me you haven't seen yours.
Oh no, I watched it.
Oh, okay then. Just weren't a huge fan, huh?
Okay, so Daryl challenged me to watch No Sudden Move by Steven Soderbergh. This is an HBO Max original. Phenomenal cast. Don Cheadle, Benicio del Toro, David Arbor, Ray Liotta, John Hamm, Brendan Fraser, who I did not recognize at first.
Oof.
Kieran Culkin, Amy Jimenez, Julia Fox, Noah Jupe, Bill Duke. Mums, may he rest in peace. Like, this has an incredible fucking cast. I could not get into it, and the cinematography drove me crazy.
What was it about the cinematography that drove you crazy?
A lot of fisheye.
Yes.
And I didn't understand why.
Yeah.
That it didn't make sense for the
purpose or the tone of the scene.
Yeah.
Yeah. It seemed like really a weird creative flourish that was just done to be done.
And here's the thing. I have no problem with weird flourishes. I watched a film recently that I don't think I could talk about yet that I mostly watched because the premise has been done a whole bunch, but I mostly watched because in the trailer, there were these interesting little flourishes that I was like, I'd like to see how this gets used. I'm curious about that. Film is fine. But with No Sudden Move, it really confused the shit out of me. I was like, why are we doing this? And then the other problem I had is that I didn't care. I wanted to care, but there was so much built-in history. And I felt like there was something I needed to know before I got in. And I don't have a problem with being behind the eight ball. That can be kind of interesting when you're watching a movie and you're like, they know what's happening. I don't know what's happening. I got to catch up. No problem. But I love the fact that it started with Don Cheadle walking into town. I love that. I love the vibe. I love the energy. And then we start seeing shots of what I guess is Detroit from that period of time in the African-American community. But it doesn't come back to that. So I didn't understand why we were getting those images. I thought it was an interesting introduction. And then there's a whole bunch of history about who do we trust and who we don't trust. And some of that comes up even up to the end of the movie. But for a lot of it, I didn't understand. Like, it didn't come into play with, I guess, the way that I expected it to, based on the characters we're meeting and the way that they interacted with each other. So it was really hard for me to care about. And then Matt Damon showed up and I was like, fuck that guy. Just the way he was carrying himself, not him personally. I don't have a dog in that particular fight, but just at that point it was like, well, of course he's there. The nose plays.
The nose always plays.
Yeah.
As soon as, because there's a dude they've been talking about for a while, and as soon as he showed up, I was like, son of a bitch, how did I not see this coming?
Yeah. And at that point I was just like, and they're having this whole conversation about, well, how did you get here? Why the fuck does it matter for the story? It ended up not mattering at all. Not a lick. So it's a whole lot of, I felt like the movie had a whole lot of flourish with not a whole lot of significance, which for me made it difficult to lock into. Now, maybe a second viewing, it might be easier to track, but I can say this. Anyone who gives Julia Fox money, doesn't work out well for them.
Nope. No, it does not. We saw what happened to Adam Sandler, man. We see who ends up with the money too. I'm a fan of that hard scrabble. I think I said it when I first talked about it. That hard scrabble, just broke criminals trying to get by, or some of my favorite characters. In this case, old broke criminals trying to get by, with Benicio and Don Cheadle there, and how their relationship kind of develops and plays throughout. I find interesting, and the bit of manicness that Kieran brings to his role. There's a lot of character work that I very much enjoy in that movie.
Yeah. No, there's some good characters, and there's, again, this cast is incredible. I was disappointed, not in the movie, but in myself for not enjoying it. I honestly felt like maybe there was just something wrong with me. It's like, why can't you enjoy this film? And Daryl's shaking his head. Yes, there's a lot wrong with you.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm also wondering those same questions, my friend. Meanwhile, you gave me Ang Lee's Hulk. Yes, not the Incredible, just Hulk. Ang Lee's Hulk. I thought it was all right, man. I thought it was a good attempt for what we end up with as far as comic book movies. This is fairly early on.
Yeah.
He was trying to. This is speaking of flourishes. This is Ang Lee putting his stank all over the Hulk, and I appreciate the effort that he put into it to try to make it relatable to its source material, comic books. I thought Eric Bana did a pretty decent job in there. Nick Nolte,
Yeah.
Nolte, not so much.
The fucking crazy is what you mean.
Fucking crazy, yeah. Jennifer Connelly in there as well. It is a good comic book movie from the bygone era of before comic book movies. I'll put it like that. As a person who has never really been a big Hulk person, I was never interested in watching it in the first place. And I'd heard people over the years going like, it's okay. And that kind of lowered my expectations, and I found it a little bit better than okay. So, I'm glad to have finally say I can see it and can join in Hulk conversation. But it's better than what I was going to give it credit for. I'll say that.
And that is, it, if my opinion means fucking anything, a perfectly fine estimation of the movie. I loved it for being a very Eastern approach of a Western story. And even though, studying the atomic bomb, it's basically our version of Godzilla, but less of a warning and more of a let's entertain each other.
Yeah.
But I loved how the visual style felt like a comic book. It's the kind of stuff that looked amazing in Into the Spider-Verse, and yet for some reason doesn't entirely work here. It doesn't.
There's a decade and change of gap to look back on and say, all right, well, what didn't quite work in Hulk that we might be able to change and then, progress and all that kind of good stuff for Spider-Verse.
And by the way, William Hurt, great as Thunderbolt
Ross
in the new ones, but what's his face?
Sam Elliott.
He was fucking fantastic too.
He was a good. And the mustache is just natural on him, anyways. So I thought he was a very good Thaddeus Ross. I like what I've gotten out of William Hurt, but yeah, if that's the one thing I would carry over from Hulk to MCU would be Sam Elliott as
multiverse. We might get him.
Ross. I don't know if Marvel would ever even acknowledge that movie existed to throw him in the multiverse. But yeah.
I felt like they kind of did with the Incredible Hulk. Because if you go and you watch the original, it's not identical, but it sort of borrows a little bit from that, while also borrowing a little bit from the TV show. But I think one of the things that hurts that movie is it's a little bit more meditative and poetic than it is literal. So you get into that final fight sequence between him and Nick Nolte, and it's a giant fucking cloud. Hulk is fighting a cloud.
Yeah. And that's kind of what you get with Ang Lee. Like, he does meditative very well. We can think of two different instances outside of this where he took that, knocked it out of the park with Brokeback and Crouch Tiger. That's kind of what you get when you hire Ang Lee.
And I think that's where it sort of lost people, but at the same time, it's really sort of wonderful of it, rather than being something that Hulk punches, he has to actually release his anger to defeat it.
Right.
Which is an interesting way to go, but it doesn't work for everybody. But I mostly challenged you to see it because you hadn't seen it. And what better way to get you to watch something to say you have no choice?
So what you're saying is I should challenge you to the Green Knight then.
Well, I plan to watch it. I just haven't.
And I'd planned to watch Hulk maybe for like 20 years.
I plan to watch The Green Knight within the next 4 months.
T41. Oh, okay. The next 4 months. Okay. All right then.
4 months.
Cool.
Oh,
is that the 4K release?
No, 4K release. Rumor has it is September.
Yeah.
Home release rumored for September, and if that's true, whether it's 4K or not, what have you, I'm hoping to cover the home release if that hits my desk. But if not, I wouldn't be shocked. I would be shocked, excuse me, if A24 didn't push it during award season.
Oh yeah, they're gonna push shit out of that movie.
Yeah,
for a number of categories.
In which case, I will watch it because
yeah,
it's probably going to be in the discussion. So I will in the next 4 months. I guarantee you, I will watch it. I'm just waiting to not pay for
it. There you go. That'll do it.
As a homeschool teacher, I don't have a salary.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I understand that 100%.
So anyway, but yeah, man.
I think that's it for 54.
That's it
for 54. Yeah. We went a little bit long-ish on this, people. So
not really. Only by 50, 51 seconds, 52 seconds, 53 seconds, 54 seconds, 55 seconds.
All right. Oh, there we go. Man, we really hit that nail on the head. I thought we went longer. Excellent.
Oh,
excellent. You got anything before you wrap this bad boy up, sir?
Just that if you have enjoyed my Fantasia Film Fest coverage, I'm going to be covering Fantastic Fest, which has got some weird ass shit going down coming out of Austin. And then I'm going to be covering the Nashville Film Festival. And fingers crossed, Night Stream, a horror film festival that was put together by Overlook, North Bend Film Festival, and 2 others. The other 2, I think, are more horror focused. And then fingers crossed, Animationist Film Festival and the Charlotte Film Festival. So I will hopefully be bringing more festival coverage, and then occasionally, hopefully, doing something more mainstream like the Green Knight somewhere.
You've now become the festival guy. You are the festival guy.
If I
don't
can
leave us poor
cover
mainstreamers behind.
No. I'm all about seeing just films in general, and if I can get access to a film virtually, I don't care if it's a film festival or if it's Joe Schmo with a tiny micro budget documentary. If I've got the time and it sounds
aren't those the film festival films?
I mean, I'm open to stuff. It's always about time and interest.
There you go.
So I'm just one man. But other than that, no, got cool stuff coming up. What about you?
Just more stuff, more reviews coming down the pipe. That's
anything you're excited about?
No, honestly. No,
I'm looking at Dune with those 50 pre-recorded tweets about how amazing it is.
I was looking at somebody had a release of like, what are you looking forward to in September? And I was like, boy, I'm not.
Nothing.
Kate, that's about it. Actually, you know what? I got a list right here. I can tell you what's coming from September. Yeah, boy, it's a dry month for me. Kate and Blue Bayou. And Blue Bayou, I have some reservations about, but we will see.
I will keep my fingers crossed for you.
Keep fingers crossed. That's it for 54 of the segment. Hopefully, we'll be back on a more steady schedule from here.
That depends. You getting engaged again?
Well, we'll have to see how these things work out. I'm still
oh damn,
ScarJo to return my phone calls. So if you hear me, Miss Johansson, I'm still the window's closing, but you better call. Yeah, that's it.
You mean the new mom, Johansson, in the middle of a legal battle?
Yeah,
I think that window's gonna close.
Yeah, right. I think she's a little bit distracted. Doesn't have time for me like she used to anymore. You win some, you lose some.
You do.
Damn you, Jost. And that's it for 54 Cinnamon. We'll be back hopefully in a couple of weeks. Until then, you all take it easy, and we'll see you around.
Later.